Krellikar stands in the dim light of a foss lamp, naked as the day he was born. The worn stone of his private burrow cold on his bare feet. A shiver runs down his spine. His penis huddles close to the front of his pelvis, shriveled into a prune-like mockery of its normal state, which Krellikar has always considered rather impressive. Sefigalo moves along on his side, circling, threading antennae through gland-heavy grooves in her multifaceted shell, slowly rubbing and patting her scent-slicked antennae around his body in a sinuous pattern, kissing the chemical trails lightly every now and then with her glistening sucker, stinging his skin, changing the scent intricately with her stomach's acids, staining his body with meaning, rethreading her antennae. Were he not holding his breath, and were his closed eyes not spilling tears, and his nose not burning with the fire of Sefigalo's distinct scent, he might feel vaguely aroused. Sefigalo steps away. Krellikar's torso nearly vibrates with the effort it takes not to vomit, not to shit himself. Sefigalo steps forward again, glides her antenna over his form for a final read. At the end of 10 long minutes, she steps back and nods. Her job is done. The meaning of Krellikar's scent marking is intricate, made up of a series of chemical signals layered to elicit feelings of security, faith, hope, and conditional trust. Roughly translated, his odor now marks him as an ally of the Rayudas on Ijik-Lor, an honored guest of the Rayud First Hive, and a wonderful development, unless he gets read by the Erodu. Another month passes, then 2. Over 4 months with the Rayud First Hive. Over 5 since the Erodu colony had considered him killed while scouting. A minor occurrence to the settlers. Forgettable. During that time, Krellikar taught the Rayudas, and the clever abominations taught him in return. He learned their dialect, their culture, and the Rayud art of war. He helped them evade the colonists, earn their trust, refined his plan, grew to genuinely care for them, and helped them emigrate from Ijik-Lor as stowaways on supply ships contracted for the Erodu colonizing effort, bit by bit, like pepper in the wind. Months passed. On Krellikar's final day with the Rayudas, he would stand naked before the matriarch of the First Hive, and he would be scent-marked one last time. Ijik Mons sinks lazily. Dusk. Streams of color lay bright across the twilight sky. A fast, gauche, long-ton transport climbs toward the stars. The last Rayudas leaving Ijik-Lor are on board, the matriarch of the First Hive among them. The ship's original crew had been slain, the only violent Rayud action in a quarter year. The ship's supplies never unloaded, stolen by the transport's new Rayud crew. The Erodu had become complacent. The absence of any Rayud sightings or evidence of Rayud activities for the past quarter had emboldened the colonists, and they had begun to build spaceports farther and farther away from the Erodu First Hive. This port was so new, it was identified only by its coordinates. Bleep! Ping! Krellikar turns away from the traffic control module to inspect another screen. His programs just finished uploading. His fingers become a blur on the control panel. It is subtle, this deception, but with it, he had managed to mislead even Father with something similar, though that was a few years ago, and Father did not remain deceived for long. Krellikar pauses, nervous for the first time in months. He thinks of Father. Then he inspects his work, his code. The rest of his life depends upon the next few moments. He taps execute, swiftly detaches his gear, packs up his tool sack, and hefts his backpack onto his shoulders. Then he walks briskly over to the control room's PRF gate. He turns back with a sudden thought, gives the room a once-over, and takes a firearm from the weapons cache. Just in case. He then inspects the extraplanetary traffic control workstation and turns back to the gate, satisfied he has everything he needs, and takes a deep breath. He exhales a quick, bracing huff of air, raises a gloved hand to the PRF control screen, and pauses again. After this, he'll be free. And despite lingering doubts about the effectiveness of his efforts before the results are known, he can't help but smile a little. It looks like a happy frown. He'll be free. One of his hands strays unconsciously out to the side to slide along the shell of a Rayud that isn't there. Krellikar turns his head, mildly surprised to find nothing but empty space. For the last 11 months or so, 1 or 20 of the crustaceans has always seemed to be around. He takes a short sniff to clear his nose, as if only the absence of their smell will convince him of his solitude. He smiles almost sadly as he acknowledges how the malodorous arthropods have become family. Any pride he has for successfully getting them off Ijiglor sours, a bittersweet accomplishment. The feeling reminds him of Mother. He sniffs again. He misses her. He will miss the Rayudas. But the task is done. This is the end of his rite of passage. It is time to go. Without further delay, he taps in the coordinates for his destination, not Tialaden Nalu, and steps into the gate. His whole being immediately begins to buzz. He and all his gear blurs around the edges. His entire form blinks out of sight for an instant. Then he explodes into several flickering identical selves in different places all around the inside of the chamber as a distant PRF gate harmonizes with his unique resonant frequency. Some of his selves seem farther away than would appear possible. A second passes. 2. A growing, flashing crowd of the one diminutive young man. The flickering speeds up, becomes a rapid strobing of the many places Krellikar could be, and then the chamber is empty. He is gone. Later that day, a Daedalian Transnet demon flags a PRF transmission from an R&D lab in the Yerodu First Hive on Ijiglor. The Yerod traveler is misidentified as a Rayud thanks to Krellikar's manipulations. The program alerts the Gixen duty monitor, who in turn alerts her superiors. An intense scrutiny of the conditions on Ijiglor follows. The Gilith apex of the Daedalian is incredulous. No conflicts have been observed on the arthropod's new homeworld, and yet a growing tide of Rayud strobes flows from the lab of the Yerodu First Hive to gates throughout the colony. Another alert records a single Rayud strobe to Boas Garang, the second planetary system colonized by the Yerodu supremacy. 3 strobes, then 40. No alarm from the Yerodu themselves. 200 strobes. Incredible! The Yerodu are reproducing the Scourge. There can be no other explanation. The Gixen Jail have been duped. The Scourge was an attempted coup d'etat, and now the duplicitous Yerodu mean to repeat their attempted insurrection. Perhaps they feel enough time has passed for the rest of the Wedge to somewhat forget the Scourge, to relax, to let their guard down. Unfortunately for the brazen arthropods, there does not exist an amount of time sufficient enough to dull the Gilith memory or relax their guard against a former threat. Within minutes, the entire first host of the Galactic Navy strobes into orbit around Ijiglor. Within the next minute, every Yerod world, outpost, colony, and way station in the Wedge is surrounded. The Daedalian overrides all Yerodu-based PRT to terminate and disannulment nodes. Instant death. Any Yerod or Rayud biometrics identified on any strobe throughout the Transnet is likewise terminated. Then to cover all their bases, kill warrants are issued wedge-wide for any of the arthropods found alive. The Galactic Navy then fires in full on every possession of the federated territories of the Yerodu supremacy, and the Gixen Jail have no reason to question the extinction of the entire species. Krellikar lifts a pint glass to his lips and slurps in another mouthful of Indra. Delicious. There's a gasp behind him. The pub's regulars are mortified. Eyes fix on every vid screen as they bear witness to the first reports of the Erodu genocide. Krellikar gulps more liquor. A pleasant burn radiates down his throat, and his head buzzes from his own PRT minutes earlier. His second transmission, or strobe as the process of teleportation is more commonly known. It's said, you get used to it after a few strobes, that the body eventually adjusts to the superposition and abrupt decoherence of prime resonance transmission. He takes another swig, lifts his gaze to the vid screen. Planets boil in the void. Eurode ships shine like little stars as they are atomized. Well, the extermination of an entire species isn't exactly the result he'd imagined. However, he can't deny its potency. Krellikar focuses on the vid screen again. The apex of the Zaydekuban addresses the citizens of the Wedge. Its disembodied voice plays over unimaginable scenes of destruction, informing all of the Erodu deception, the treachery. Krellikar shakes his head with something approaching pity for the Erodu. The Gixen Jail were never ones to underestimate a threat, and they never failed to overreact to one. Perhaps there's a lesson there. He takes another swig. Genocide. A heavy-handed solution, but he hopes this satisfies Father's requirements for a suitable response. If not, the little engineer doesn't know what will suffice. He can't exactly resurrect the Erodu to try again. Krellikar's chest tightens with the anxiety of not knowing what Father's reaction will be. Odrau, planetary capital of Gelfon II. Krellikar enters a rented bedroom, triggers the motion-activated light. A well-worn, leather-bound folder lay on his bed, identical to his old assignment folder, the one Father had given him when he was a child. Krellikar left it on Tialaden Nalu when he embarked on his rite of passage. The folder in front of him has the same food stain on the corner. The little engineer's blood runs cold. His flesh gooses up. He hasn't been actively trying to hide as he makes his circuitous way back home, but hell, how has Father found him so quickly? Krellikar only arrived here yesterday. An hour later, Krellikar eyes the folder. As far as he can tell, it isn't trapped, poses no danger. Neither does the rest of the room. He powers down his detection gear, reaches out slowly with shaky hands around an extended broomstick, an undone wire hanger rewound and bent into a hook at the stick's end. He maneuvers the hook under the lip of the folder's top cover, quickly snatches it open, and jumps behind a makeshift barrier of the room's furnishings. Pumping blood pounds past his inner ears as he listens for the deadly catch he hasn't thought of. Seconds tick by. Nothing. Krellikar looks around, peeks above an overturned love seat. Still nothing. He moves cautiously over to the bed, cautiously cranes his head over his shoulder to peer down at the opened thing. Inside is a note. Just a note, written in Father's hand. Astounding, it says. I am duly cautioned to avoid your displeasure, child. Well done. Aside from a biodata patch under the note, that's it. Krellikar swallows with a dry throat. He's suddenly very thirsty. He releases an unconsciously held breath. He has to urinate. A jumble of an argument becomes audible from the hall. Someone screams for bloody murder. Screams for Krellikar's head. Krellikar takes a few steps back, dumbfounded. He doesn't understand. The discovery of any trace of his involvement with the destruction of the Erodu verges on the impossible. That piece of shit killed Umedit! An enraged woman screams. The voices get louder. Umedit? Why does that name sound familiar? Is this Father's trap? The catch he hadn't seen? And you let him live? The enraged woman continues, scrambling, louder than it should be, considering those involved are still in the hall. Krellikar retreats a few more steps. The backs of his legs bump into the bed. He raises a hand. Wait, he begins. Who's who met it? His other hand goes to his hip, but his sidearm isn't there. That isn't right. None of this is right. Well, the note is right. That happened, but there was never any screaming. No. This must be a dream. All he has to do is concentrate. Focus. Then he can take control. He looks around for his weapon. There. On the dresser. He tries to move. His muscles strain as if against a great force, like trying to run against an ocean tide in chest-high water. He yearns for his sidearm. A lamp falls from the side table by the door. The door heaves as if breathing has become a thing that doors do. Krellikar's vision snaps from the door to the dresser, to the gun on top. All he has to do is focus, and it's his. More shouting, arguing. He can't help but look again at the heaving door. Concentrate! The arguing gets louder. Krellikar turns back to his sidearm on the dresser. Father is there, holding the gun in his hand. Get out of the way, Meeson! Screams the enraged woman. Father! Krellikar hisses with a harsh, desperate whisper. Give me the weapon! Father raises the sidearm with slow purpose, a calculating gaze, finger tight on the trigger. A dread chill rushes through Krellikar's veins at the look on Father's face, at the terrifyingly detached curiosity in his eyes. Father would kill him just to study how he dies. Father! What are you... Wait! No! Don't! Give me the gun! Krellikar screams with an urgency bordering on panic. Shooting me serves no purpose! Iriad Sholem squeezes the trigger, fires a shot directly into his son's belly. Krellikar wakes with a start, bent at the waist, sight blurry with tears, gasping for breath. The heavy stink of Reyudas fills his lungs. The Nelaton Hauler. His head hangs over the edge of a couch as he clutches at the paralyzing pain in his abdomen. There's a scuffling nearby. A pile of bodies wrestles on the floor near the couch. Krellikar fights to catch his breath. He wipes his eyes with shaking fingers and sees a tall, willowy human woman with an undeniable curvy build. Her glowing dark skin, the color of a moonless night. Her long, thick growth of tightly curled black hair bent all out of shape from her struggles. A spiny Sizzix, a man, and a wild-ridden nomad hold her down. Her face twists with hatred. Krellikar watches her struggle. The woman spits the most horrible profanity his way. Krellikar's stomach cramps with a second wave of agony. He curls his body smaller around the pain. She just struck him. That much is clear, and from what he can tell, she intends to do much worse. The massive Sizzix winds tighter around the dark woman's feet amidst the yelling of everyone else on the floor. Seth! The spiny-haired creature shouts. The little human is under the Siluo's protection. The Reyud name gives the woman pause. Seth. Krellikar clears his throat to speak, and the sound of it, the simple, healthy sound of Krellikar unclogging his airway, drives this Seth back into a murderous rage. A very small part of Krellikar's mind understands that he is in a danger of a sort. It recommends caution, if not immediate withdrawal. But the overriding majority of his thought focuses on the rage-possessed woman's face. Seth. Krellikar is mesmerized. She is by far the most beautiful creature he has ever seen.